Hi, I'm JC John Cox with Specter Precision, and today's video is going to be a little bit different. Today I want to talk to you about constitutional rights. Not exactly in line with precision rifle shooting. I mean, it is, but this video is not directly related to or talking about the fundamentals of precision rifle marksmanship. I want to focus on kind of a political agenda or apolitical agenda. I want to talk about constitutional rights. Those who know me in my personal life know that recently I've been doing sort of an informal survey among younger folks as our paths cross, as I see them, meet them every day. And with my profession as a police officer, I meet quite a few young folks every day. Not just in an enforcement capacity, but having a cup of coffee at a coffee shop when you're wearing your uniform. Some folks will approach and just want to have a conversation, and I look forward to that. I enjoy those conversations. And one of the topics that frequently presents itself is constitutional rights. Most young people that I talk to eventually will ask me a question regarding their constitutional rights, and I have a unique perspective because it is my job to enforce the law while maintaining their constitutional rights, and that's not as easy as it sounds. Most of it's common sense, but you have to be very careful with what you say in day-to-day interactions, and it has given me a unique perspective. So most folks know that law enforcement officers are type A personalities. Most of us are conservative and have conservative values. Not all, okay, but there's definitely a certain stereotype that accompanies being a police officer. And usually on a day-to-day basis, I try and break that stereotype. So when I have these conversations, I do what I call, or not what I call, but what is called active listening, meaning I listen to the opinions that they offer without thinking about what I'm going to say next. I just listen. I let them say what they're going to say. I think about it, I process it, then I form a rebuttal or an answer or agree with them, whatever the case may be. That said, I usually ask them all the same question. I try and ask it in the same format each and every time, and that question is, what are constitutional rights? And each one gives me the customary answer. Well, that's your freedom of religion and your freedom of speech and your right to bear arms and so on and so forth, the Bill of Rights. And I normally interrupt them and I say, no, not what are your constitutional rights. What are constitutional rights as a whole? What are they? Explain to me what they are. And they say, well, they're rights that are bestowed upon you by the government to pursue a life of liberty and happiness as you see fit. And I respond, and it usually puzzles them with, wrong. You are wrong. Constitutional rights are not bestowed by the government. They exist as long as you exist. If you're a religious person, such as myself, you believe that your maker bestowed these constitutional rights upon you. Okay? If you're not a religious person, you could say they are natural rights of existence. But I work best in analogies. So I usually break it down by analogy. And the analogy that I use is of two people standing in a field. Imagine that these two people, it doesn't matter what color, race, gender, anything, none of that matters. It doesn't matter what they are. They're just person one and person two are standing in a field. And they are absent structures of society, institutions of society. Government doesn't exist. Law enforcement doesn't exist. Buildings don't exist. We'll say grass, trees, animals, and these two people exist, and that's it. Okay. By their very existence, they are guaranteed certain human rights, certain natural rights of existence. And that right, or one of those rights, is the freedom to speak their mind, the freedom of speech. And we enjoy this in the United States, while other countries are losing it. Now, I don't think that the United States is the only free country in the world. There are other countries that enjoy a degree of freedom of speech, but imagine saying or speaking out against your government in a communist country, in the Ukraine, or in Russia, or in Colombia. There's usually dire consequences associated. So we enjoy freedom of speech here. So person 1 is free to speak their mind. Person 2 is also free to speak their mind, to communicate their opinion without fear of reprisal. Okay? Person 1 and person 2 are also free to worship whatever God they choose, or not to worship a God if they so choose. They are free to feel safe. Okay? And that's what the Second Amendment is about. The freedom to feel safe. Not just against other people, but against institutions that would try and enslave them. So, rights, they're not bestowed upon you by a government. As a matter of fact, the government exists only to protect those rights. Look at the laws that have been made. Laws have been made to protect rights. Okay? So, something to think about, something to consider. What are constitutional rights? I encourage you to think about it. I encourage you to ask your friends about it. Most of the folks watching my channel are going to agree with me, but if you know somebody who doesn't, or if you don't yourself, feel free to share this video. If they have questions, feel free to put them in the comments. If I don't know the answer, I'll research it, I'll get back to you. Hell, I'll even cite my sources. Thanks for watching. This is JC John Cox with Specter Precision.